Hello Robots, it's Jade. Welcome to a Valheim news video. There's another update. We obviously saw the Hearth and Home update hit yesterday, adding all the brand new build pieces, brand new enemies, brand new resources together like tar to make your dark wood, and a whole lot more. But there is already a change that's just come through the live. It's actually put onto the test servers a little while ago, and it seems like they've already pushed it out to everyone right now. I think this will make a lot of people happy that maybe felt some of the food changes were a little bit too drastic. So we're going to talk about that, my thoughts about the update, whether or not I think this is a good update or a bad update, if there was such a thing, and what happens next. Do leave a like, make sure you're subscribed, and go and check out the rest of my Valheim content. Let's go. So by now you should have had a play around with the food, realising that a lot of the food is now divided into maybe three categories. One that gives you a lot of health, one that gives you a lot of stamina, and one that possibly does a bit of both. Now some of them changes have been a bit drastic, and what we noticed, obviously a lot of players straight away noticed, was it felt like it was a bit too far. So today's update is going to be balancing the HP stamina on most of the foods. Effectively, they're balancing it a little bit better. So if it's a HP food, it's going to have a little bit more health, and if it's a health food, it's going to have a little bit more stamina. Now, I've not listed exactly every single food that's had a little bit of a rebalance, but it does look like the vast majority have had their stats raised just ever so slightly to make it a little bit easier. From what I can tell, it just meant that players were experiencing just a little bit too much one way. Even if you ate balanced foods, it probably wasn't giving you enough stamina and enough health to kind of just go about your daily business. The whole idea of the Hearth and Home update is to really make it so that you have food for the right occasion. Doing some building, doing some maybe logging just in a safe area, then go for stamina based foods just to run around and get everything you want quickly. Going into a dangerous area to get a resource, fighting higher level enemies, then you're going to need more health to tanker more with your shield. That's not the only changes as well. They've fixed the tar not spawning on dedicated server worlds, so now if you rent your own server, you've been having problems finding tar pits. Hopefully that should be resolved now. They've also reduced the health on Fulins and Fulin Shamans. Seems like they were being just a little bit too OP. And you will be able to now stagger Fulins as well. And a lot of you guys were complaining initially, like day one reactions from the Hearth and Home update, that stamina use for bows was simply just too much. Now they've made some core changes to the bows if you don't know already. Now obviously they did maybe go just a little bit too far in how much stamina it was using though, and so now they've raised it ever so slightly again. Does look like also cages have had a little bit of a quick change too. Patch notes simply say a 1x1 physics fix, that you may need to replace them though if you're still having problems. So I don't know exactly what the issue was, just replace all of your cage stuff and it should be okay. Also it looks like they've expanded what boars can eat. They'll eat blueberries, raspberries and mushrooms from now on, making it far easier to tame them in the early stages of the game. And so that's pretty much it. That update should be live for absolutely everyone now. Go and restart your Steam if you haven't seen it pop on. You may have been spending a big deep session playing your game. There will be more changes. I'm expecting a lot more little balances and tweaks like this because they didn't put it on test live prior to its release. We are, I am sure, going to see a lot of hot fixes over the coming week where they take on board some feedback from players. What I hope we don't see is knee-jerk reactions. I've kind of already experienced a few comments, people saying that they really don't like the update because it's ruined this or it's nerfed that. And totally I understand sometimes it's no fun when something you've enjoyed gets changed to a degree that is just maybe a bit above what you expected. But then again, this is early access. This is a big update where they did want to surprise players with it. But they've also stated that in the future they won't be doing that same kind of thing. They will be updating us more regularly on the test live servers and smaller updates to keep us going. And so hopefully that means there will be a bit more fine tuning between balance and feedback between developers and the player base. So yeah, if you've got something to say about the changes, you're not a big fan, and hopefully in the next coming week you'll see a lot of hotfixes that may remedy that. Absolutely make it known. Set up some forum posts, jump in Discord and put it in the feedback forum. But also talk about what you do like. That's something that I don't think enough of developers get. We often just hear the biggest and loudest noise about something people don't like. Equally, just as much as you might not like something, there's going to be at least a dozen or so more people that probably do, but they just don't feel like they need to talk about it. That's just the nature of gaming in general. So I didn't actually do the patch notes from yesterday, as I figured it would probably just be more important to go through this stuff, and Irongate really do a good job of letting you know, because the patch notes always pop up on the screen as soon as you load into the game. What I can talk about is what I like about the Hearth and Home update so far, and what I think needs tuning and changing. So the idea that you have to go and get tar to pretty much unlock Darkwood, I think some players have found that difficult. Particularly if they're a bit of a cozy builder, the thought of having to go over to the plains biome and harvest and gather lots of tar is just not their cup of tea. It has to be said that pretty much within a good couple of visits, maybe 2 or 3 tar pits, you should have more or less enough tar to last absolutely ages. But I do think there needs to be maybe another way that we can get it. Possibly we can get tar as a residual drop, as a lucky chance maybe, in some of the swamp biomes when you maybe harvest a dead tree or an ancient tree, or maybe you just find it in some cages or chests. Experienced players won't have a problem in running over there, and it is doable as long as you are smart. You might be able to get over there, clear out all the growths, and get the tar pretty quickly and easily. But for sure, I can recognise that some players will still think this is just a bit of an annoyance, having kind of a nice build feature like this, kind of locked behind kind of end game at the moment. Now in the future, the plains won't be end game, we've got 3 more biomes to come, but right now it is the end game. It is the hardest, toughest biome to really go through, at least until you get all full iron gear upgraded and everything else. So yeah, I don't think it would hurt to make tar available, or to maybe even be able to craft it ourselves. What if you used coal instead? What if you could maybe condense 10 coal and 1 resin, and that would also make tar to help make the dark woods? These are just a couple of ideas that I think maybe Irongate should maybe think about. I understand weapons and armors being tied to end game results, but build pieces, something a lot of the Valheim community absolutely love doing. I think some of them may resent having to do that kind of steps to go there. Equally though, most builders in Valheim do it in cheats mode, or they have mods that help them cheat and they can spawn in the build stuff. If you are strictly a builder, then you can simply just go ahead, activate the cheats and spawn in as much tar as you want. So there are ways around it if you really don't fancy having to run down there. Maybe you've been playing it a bit casually, but yeah, I can see that being a little bit of an issue with some people playing the game. As for the build pieces themselves, I think they look amazing. They are quite dark, and you do end up with a base that can sometimes look a bit gothic. So I think it's going to be important that whatever comes next, if we do get any more build pieces, that there is something to lighten it a little bit. Whether that means it's a different type of wood, like we can actually have birch planks or oak trees that are just a little bit more different, I'm not too sure. But some sort of iteration, something where along the line down the road we will have something to go a kind of opposite of the dark wood. And yes, I know we've got thatch, but let's face it, thatch is ugly. But the pieces themselves, I absolutely love it. I definitely want these to be rotated sideways. At the moment, it kind of sucks that I can't just literally put it sideways. I can only have it horizontal or vertical, one of them two, whichever one it was. Or even just give us a smaller option, make a smaller shutter. I absolutely love the gate, I love the roof pieces, I like the design of them. The cage walls are a nice little feature, a nice little addition. But yeah, more pieces like that we can add and just lighten up builds a lot more with variety, I would love to see. The auto attack button now, where you can set it pretty much and just keep holding it instead of tapping, is a godsend for me, as I'm literally getting carpal tunnel syndrome using my mouse and keyboard lately. So yeah, just being able to hold it is absolutely great. And actually, if you don't know, using a control pad is so much better now. I've always found it pretty decent. I think Valheim is one of the better games for using control pads. I use it usually exclusively whenever I can. But yeah, they've made some really nice changes. Everything snaps into place a lot more now, and it just seems everything's a little bit better, a little bit more polished, a little bit more refined. In terms of everything else, yeah, we've got some great stuff. The cosmetic pieces, the build pieces, in terms of decorations, are great. I'm absolutely loving the choice in foods that we can just put all over our tables. The big long table's nice. Equally, I love the sitting log as well. Something I never really spoke about in some of my videos yesterday was the upgraded iron cooking station now, where you can pretty much cook things a lot quicker. This is fantastic. Saves so much time if you manage to unlock it. Obviously, got the new axe as well, which seems pretty decent. It's pretty much the only one of 3 new weapons or tools that have been added. We have obviously got the knives. If you don't know, obviously the butcher's knife, well maybe not that obvious, is only used to kill your tames. The silver knife you can use as a proper combat tool or weapon. But yeah, the butcher's knife, that is how you kill your tames because friendly fire is now enabled. We also did get a stone throne added to the game. I'm kind of disappointed I need a big massive support for it to have it on the first floor. I do absolutely love the hot tub. I think it's a great idea, although I kind of wish there was a little bit more meta to it. Basically, I want a use for the obliterator. I've already spoke about it in my video yesterday where I showed you guys how to make it and craft it. It pretty much just deletes your items and gives you coal back in some instances. I definitely think this first iteration of it, it needs to add something more. Yes, we've got chests full of stuff, but I don't think that was people's biggest problem in having chests full of items. You could easily just hide it somewhere. It's more that we kind of maybe want something back from some of the weapons and stuff we've crafted that maybe we just don't need. Maybe you've had friends join your world, you've crafted a bunch of stuff together, and then they've gone off and done their own thing, and you're left with 20 of the same axes. It is a little bit of a joke that you only get a little bit of coal back for it. Odin is a bit of a miser, it seems. Now, obviously, we can't have things like, if you put an axe inside here, you can't expect to get black metal back, because that would mean we'd be able to get round the portals. But yeah, I do kind of hope that, or at least they've come up with something, whether it be a little buff. Maybe it gives us a bit extra stamina from the lightning damage. Sure, let it do a tiny bit of damage to us, but also give us a 5-minute buff where we have reduced stamina drain. Just give us something in addition to the coal if you can't give us our resources back. The other option was that I thought it could be a very interesting way that we could potentially have electricity in the game. I don't know if everyone's really noticed, but Valheim is almost steampunky in a lot of the stuff that's in it. Like, sure, it's got a bunch of this kind of stuff, but when you look at the artisan table, it's obviously meant to be like a magical item. But with the cogs turning and the way it's powered by the crystal, I don't think we're too far from saying that it has got almost that steampunky aesthetic to it. So I would like it in the future, maybe it's a prelude, that something like this could be needed to power something like the artisan table. It could be needed to power the hot tub. Don't go too mad, I'm not saying have a redstone network of electricity in a Viking world, but I could see something where it could be interesting. Maybe it could store up power if you use the obliterator quite a lot. You could then use it as a kind of potion buff. It could be an ingredient that you put into potions that give you more stamina as well. Just something interesting to make use of the simple idea of deleting items. Obviously, I love all the new placeables as well. Being able to kind of have coal and all the different types of wood stacked up, that's really nice. And again, it adds another layer to role players and builders that just want to have nice places all around. When it comes to the actual cooking stuff, yes, I absolutely adore it. I think it's great. Again, it just means that we can make proper bakeries, proper kitchens, and we've got stuff to really fill it up and make it look nice. Obviously, the upgrades are needed too to unlock certain recipes. And yeah, I don't think there's too much more to say about that. I think some players might feel that it's kind of just complicating things for the sake of it, but it does go in line with everything else in the game. You need proper upgrades for your workbench, you need proper upgrades for your forge, so it makes sense that you would need proper upgrades for cooking since it's such an important part of the game, eating different types of food. The oven is a bit underwhelming. I mean, obviously it's just an oven. What else is it going to make other than lox, pie and bread? And I guess they really are the end game items. That's its whole point. It's an end game crafting station. Bread and lox pie are two of the most best foods going at the moment. It will give you the most stamina and the most HP. So I kind of get why it would maybe only craft or make that kind of stuff. But the design of it I absolutely love. I think it's great. I'm just not too sure about locking it behind the artisan table. Sad times though. No armor stand. We thought we saw from the reveals, the teases that they did, that they were going to be adding some sort of armor stand to the game, and it turns out nope, no armor stands. I'm also a bit disappointed that they haven't addressed maybe some of the other stuff that players really spoke about wanting. As much as everyone wants an item to be deleted, I know for a fact that nearly everyone wants separate holders for your armor. It's something the devs have categorically stated over and over again that they don't think they're going to add it. It's not a priority at the moment, but I think it needs to happen. I'm sure if we went through all the replies and comments, it's got to be something that's high up there compared to just being able to delete your items. Separate armor slots, it just makes sense. Or really start thinking about introducing the bags and pouches that we kind of know might be coming in the future a bit sooner. If I have to hold a bag that can give me 6 more slots, that would be fantastic. Obviously, we have got the belts that we can buy, yes, but they only give you extra weight. So yeah, make it happen, Iron Gate. Give us a bum bag soon and shut everyone up complaining that they can't have their armor in a separate slot. And yeah, it would be nice also to get armor stands, just saying. Things like the cartographer table, obviously good for multiplayer, as we said, the UI changes with the map are great, but I would like it to be more of a use for single player too. Maybe the cartographer table can keep track of all the treasures that you found but you haven't actually dug up yet. So if you're using Wishbone, you're running past, it's going off, but you don't want to be digging for it, it will actually show you on the map. That I thought might be a semi-decent idea. Some way that single players can use it a little bit more. And when it comes to my little fluffy, I think it's a good addition. As I said in my Tame video, I would like to see possibly bigger portals added so we could take these home. But really, they're meant to be designed as a creature to help you just in that moment when you're in the plains. So the idea being that you can just leave it there somewhere hopefully safe in a little outpost. And just like some of the other areas now have creatures, like you go to the mountains, you've got wolves that you can tame and have as a little bit of extra protection. But for sure, I would like to see his health buffed a little bit, or maybe just bit improved against certain creatures like the death mosquito. They can do a lot of damage to creatures on their own. I absolutely love the way it's walking around, it's really cool. And yeah, as soon as they can, I hope they add some sort of bags for it or sort of carry saddles. Because at the moment, I do believe you can just about jump onto your locks if you're overweight. So there is a way that you can absolutely use it to get you from A to B, even if you've got an absolute bunch of stuff on you. And I guess that's another use that maybe I hadn't considered when I done my video yesterday, was although it doesn't actually have any slots to put items in, it's still going to be pretty decent by the looks of things, because yes, you can use it if you're over encumbered. Just the issue will be if you get attacked in the plains, it can be sudden sometimes with death mosquitoes, and then you've got to spend 10 minutes in your inventory taking stuff out or just dropping it quickly to help your locks, otherwise it's going to get killed. And you get the idea, it becomes just a bit of an annoyance. So yeah, the quicker they add some sort of actual bags to the locks or some way it can actually carry stuff, I think the better. But as a companion in the plains, it is absolutely OP sometimes. As long as you are helping it out and not expecting it to do all the work. Overall, I think the update is solid. I think the changes were needed. I think it absolutely adds a little bit more layer of complexity. And the majority of it I don't think is kind of overdone. I think, as I said, some players might fight back against it and think that stuff is just been made a little bit more difficult. But the devs have said that they want the game to be a little bit more difficult. They don't want it to be not fun, but this is what the balance changes are for. And getting them in now means they can concentrate on new content rather than maybe revisiting this a bit further down the line when it's more entrenched. Over the years, covering other games like Art Survival Evolved, I remember the amount of times the devs got rubbish and attacks because they nerfed certain dinosaurs. In fact, one of the earliest ones was when they nerfed the abilities of raptors. Pretty much raptors were nearly as OP as a T-Rex. And this was in like the first year of Ark being live. Before and posts were light, social media, so many people complaining. And even worse, when Wildcard and Ark decided to nerf flyer speed on dinos, effectively not able to maybe speed up the way that you can go across the skies. And that caused a huge kickback, but in the end it was needed for the balance of the game, and I hope that a lot of players do recognise this. Catering to everyone, making sure you've got a game that is going to be complex enough and hard enough for veterans to keep on playing or to return, but also still make it balanced enough that new players will have a decent time with it too. VALHEIM may have 8 million players, but it certainly still wants to get as many new players as it can. So while the game's maybe been tweaked a little bit to offer a bit more challenge, hopefully there's ways around it now with different types of foods, and as they get buffed and tweaked over the next week, I'm sure even more, I think we'll get into the right spot. I guess as well, because this has been a Hearth and Home update, and the devs have always made it clear we weren't going to see bosses and huge amount of new enemies or landscapes go and explore, but I'm quite surprised we got the tar pits, to be honest. I thought that would be something that gets added to the Ashlands, so I'm quite pleased with the content we've got. I think it's just about enough to the wait we've kind of had, and I think it should be enough to keep us going, especially if you start a brand new game. If you start a brand new game with a new character, I think you're going to definitely see the changes and why it was needed. But invariably, there probably will be a bit kickback that it maybe isn't enough. So what happens next? Well, the Mistlands update is going to be the big biome update. But between that, we're going to get some of the smaller stuff. Robin and Lisa were on the Twitch gaming show yesterday, and the presenters were a little bit stilted, I ain't going to lie. They didn't seem to know too much about VALHEIM. Well, one of them didn't anyway. which blows my mind that the biggest game of the year, 8 million copies, and you haven't managed to give it a try, and you call yourself a gamer. Anywho, the devs did give a bit of normal information that we've kind of heard all throughout the patch notes and the preview vids, and obviously since the Hearth and Home update, what their favourite stuff was. So you should maybe go and give it a watch. But what they did say was that yes, they're working on big updates like the Mistlands in conjunction with smaller stuff. So we may see things like the Svalbard Brigands, we may see things like ship changes, and some of the other smaller stuff actually happen more regularly, and that's the kind of stuff we're going to see. The Mistlands will contain new enemies, a boss, new resources, but in between that we're going to get changes, maybe some new stuff added that's going to keep people a bit happier longer. So that's my plea. Don't be too trigger happy on going off and complaining about something just yet. Do it in a constructive way, reach out on the bug forums in Discord if there is an actual bug, or find the feedback page and give the developers some constructive talk about what you want changed. Heck, leave it even here, and I'm sure some of the Iron Gate devs may even see it. But as I said, do also let me know what you love about the update. I'm going to carry on building, expect my food guide to be coming out very soon after this update video, and I'll be back as soon as we get any other hotfixes. I'll do a separate video on them, or I'll include them in my survival show. So until next time, ratbags, I'll catch you later.